Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be talking about The Bloodprint by Ausma Zehanat Khan. This is book one in the Khorasan archive, which from my understanding is going to be a quartet or tetralogy, 4-book series. So far 3 books have been released: The Bloodprint, The Black Khan, which I will be talking about tomorrow, the video after my 13th part of my science fiction library tour, and then there's The Blue Eye, which came out in October, and I will hopefully be talking about in January because I plan on having The Blue Eye as one of my January reads. Anyway, let's get on to The Bloodprint. So, this world, Khorasan, is heavily reminiscent of the Near East. I'd say roughly geographically, because the map is very similar to the Near East. That it's roughly maybe Iraq through Iran and into Central Asia. Khorasan is divided into roughly 4 quadrants. Western Khorasan is ruled by a prince who's called the Black Khan. He features a little bit in this book and far more heavily in the Black Khan. South and East Khorasan have fallen to this totalitarian, radical interpretation of the local religion, the claim, and they're called the Talisman. They're led by a preacher called the One-Eyed Preacher. And the Talisman, and I'll get to this. So that's East, South, and East Khorasan. North Khorasan has been taken over by a tyrant called the Authoritan. And then centralish Khorasan is contested. It's being invaded by the forces of the Talisman, but there are pockets of varying peoples who have not yet succumbed to Talisman rule. One of these is the Council of Hera. Now, the Council of Hera are a group of women who have dedicated their lives to the study and preservation of the claim. The claim is the local religion. They worship a god or godlike entity called the One, from which the claim descends. The claim is, while also being a holy book, is also a source of magic. Certain people can, through reciting passages from the claim, can effect certain magical effects. And several members of the Council of Hera, who called companions, can use this magic. One of them is Arian. She is the first oralist. She is one of the most well-researched. She's the most knowledgeable about the claim. And also one of the highest-ranked companions. She has, for a decade before the start of the novel, been involved with disrupting Talisman slave chains. Essentially, the Talisman will enslave women who've lost their male members of their family, and women they just don't like, and sell them to North Khorasan, to the Authoritan. And what he does with them is, at least at the start of the novel, unknown. So Arian has devoted her life to disrupting these slave chains. Joining her is a young companion called Sania. She's from the lands of the Nagas, who are heavily implied to be a fantasy counterpart to Asia. I mean, not Asia, Africa. So they've been working together for a year or two, disrupting these slave chains. As the novel opens, they're disrupting another slave chain and encounter a young boy who they let go. And they encounter him again in roughly the same role. He's I think they're called Hazara. Let me check. Yeah, Hazara. Who are Eastern Khorasan. I think they live on the eastern parts of Khorasan, and are looked down upon by most people of Khorasan. And the talisman essentially genocide them, enslave them, and genocide them. So from disrupting this slave chain, Arian and Sania go to Kandor, a city in South Khorasan, to get this cloak, which imbues the wearer with a certain legitimacy, a certain ability to command the faithful. So they take it, and they take it to Hera. At Hera, it is given to the Black Khan, because the Black Khan and the High Companion, the leader of the Council of Hera, have an arrangement. And Arian is then given an odyssey, a quest she must fulfill. She is to go in pursuit of the Bloodprint, as the title implies, which is the oldest known copy of the claim. And the hope is that by possessing the Bloodprint, this oldest known copy of the claim, that they can use it to dispute the legitimacy of the one-eyed preacher. Even as the talisman, besides being incredibly misogynistic and genocidal, are also deeply anti-knowledge, anti-literacy. They burn books. They kill those who can read and write. And the hope is, by possessing the Bloodprint, by studying it, they will be able to strip the one-eyed preacher of his legitimacy. So the Bloodprint is held by the Authoritan, or in the lands controlled by the Authoritan. So Arian and Sania must go on a quest into North Khorasan to find it. And it's an incredible journey, filled with self-discovery, the beginnings of deep friendships and love, and eventually two of the deepest betrayals you can imagine. And this is just an amazing book. I read it shortly after it first came out, and I didn't quite get on with it. I think I bailed, maybe, or set it aside after the first chapter. And then I set it aside, but it ate at me. And excuse me, I came back to it a few months ago, read it, loved it, just absolutely loved it. And yeah, cannot wait to read more. Finished the Black Khan yesterday, and I'll talk about it tomorrow. But it's just, I'm loving this world, these characters, this journey. Now, in the world although I do have some kind of quibbles with it. But I mean, it's just an amazing book, amazingly well realized. Particularly, I think the character of Arian. She's just an amazing character, and Sania, she's a blast. So anyway, now one of the issues I do have is the romance. It does at times take over the narrative. So Arian is in love with Daniar, who is the keeper of the candor and the silver mage. So in this world, there are people who can, through their knowledge of the claim, enact magical effects. Arian is one. Sania becomes one. And then there are those who seem to develop their powers through inheritance somehow. These are mages. There's the silver mage, Daniar. There's the golden mage, Elia, who is also the high companion with her own agenda. There is the Black Khan, who is the dark mage. And they seem to have a certain powers that may or may not necessarily derive from the claim, but knowledge of the claim also enhances their abilities too, I think. So Arian trained with Daniar and fell in love with him and him with her. But given that the companions of Hera are supposed to be celibate, their loyalty is to the sisterhood, not to any romantic partner, their relationship has always been strained and antagonistic. And during this quest, as Daniar joins them and rescues them and guides them to basically where they need to go to get to where the Bloodprint is held, him and Arian begin to mend their relationship, to heal the wounds they've inflicted on each other, and to declare to each other that they love each other. And this is an incredibly powerful moment and characterization moment, and also plot point, because I mean, the thing with romance is, I mean, it can be troublesome and it overtakes a narrative if it's not specifically about romance, but at the same time, it can serve as a plot enhancer, because sometimes romance can basically put the characters through the ringer, and that's really what fiction is supposed to be. Your protagonist put through the ringer until they reach the climax of their story. And romance, especially fraught romances as that of Daniar and Arian is one of those. It can also be characterization building, as Arian, who has been so wrapped up with her oaths and her loyalty to Hera, finds herself really questioning that, of whether she would be willing to give it all up to be with Daniar. Now, where I think the romance gets a bit annoying for me is that Arian is not only pursued by Daniar, she's also pursued by the Black Khan and by the leader of the Buzkashi, who are a mountain people who live in this borderland between central Khorasan, eastern central Khorasan, and the north Khorasan. That it's basically they have to go, Arian and her companions have to go through their lands to get to the lands of the Authoritan. And their leader is Zaref Shan, both have this, they're in love or in lust with Aryan. And it kind of gets to the point where, and then Aryan has these sort of responses to them where she kind of sort of finds them attractive, but she's also like loyal to Daniar, so it's this really weird thing that I'm not entirely sure works all that well. But again, it's very brief moments. And the one thing, the other besides the romance, I think that I do not entirely sure about is the conclusion. The conclusion really works on a betrayal. So in pursuit of the Bloodprint, Aryan is working with the Black Khan. That he's basically facilitating their progress in a way. And then it's revealed once they do have the Bloodprint in their possession that he basically sold them out to the Authoritan in exchange for the Bloodprint. That he has the Bloodprint and he takes it back to him to his capital of Ashfall, while Aryan, Daniar are at the mercy of the Authoritan and his consort, who happens to be Aryan's sister, who was kidnapped and sold by the Talisman a decade prior, or decades prior, by the Talisman. And it's, I think the issue isn't necessarily how that it ends on a cliffhanger. It's like that gut punch of a cliffhanger that does make you want to read more, but also it's just like soul destroying, which I guess is a good thing. So definitely really enjoyed the Bloodprint. And tomorrow I will be talking about the Black Khan. So anyway, thank you, BookTube.